Hello and welcome to Unity of Fredericksburg. My name is Linda and I'm pleased to welcome all of you to the Unity of Fredericksburg's weekly online gathering. At Unity of Fredericksburg, we are advancing the movement of spiritual awakening and transformation through unity, a positive path for spiritual living. We thank those of you watching on YouTube, live or later, and invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you're able to attend live, we encourage you to join us in the Zoom community room for the full Sunday morning experience, including music, prayer, and connection. Our weekly newsletter includes the Sunday service link, and you can subscribe to receive that at our website at uofva.org. For everyone local to Central Virginia, Unity of Fredericksburg offers a variety of fun and enriching in-person gatherings every month. Subscribe to our weekly newsletter at uofva.org for all the details. Our message today comes from our minister, Reverend Cheryl Fair. Why do I do that? Sorry. And now here's Reverend Cheryl.
Thank you, Linda. No worries. Thank you so much. Welcome, 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 everyone that's in the Zoom room right now, everyone watching on YouTube, and everyone who's watching later. We appreciate your energy and your presence as you are participating in this ministry we call Unity of Fredericksburg. So our broadcast date today is August the 4th. 2024. It's the first Sunday of August, so I have a little trivia about that. The month of August was named after a major figure in the ancient Roman world, Augustus Caesar. He was the first Roman emperor and the grand nephew of the previous ruler, Julius Caesar, who named July after himself. So the beauty of Emperor Augustus is that he brought about a phase of peace in an era of conflict. And he inspired growth, reform, stronger infrastructure, and various city services in Rome, including firefighters. So we can think of this month in terms of civility, reorganization, improvements, and overall development, whether that is in our own lives or out in our community. So August is the 8th month of the year, and in numerology, the sacred number 8 is special because when you turn it on its side, it becomes infinity and represents peace and symmetry. So there you have it, friends. Welcome to August. And here at Unity of Fredericksburg in 2024, we are exploring well-being, and our focus for August is occupational well-being. So I like to look at words, I like to start that way, looking at words. So occupation, well, that's known as a job or a profession, right? But there are lots of synonyms, lots of shades of gray when it comes to that word occupation. So various phrases that are synonyms, line of work or walk of life can be seen as an occupation, or vocation, right? This is all related to our sense of purpose or having a calling, if you will. And in the simplest of terms, it's really about how you spend your time, how you focus your energy can all be seen as occupation, vocation. Let's look a little bit closer at the word vocation. I have a quote here from James Martin in The Jesuit Guide to Almost Everything. The root meaning of the word vocation comes from the Latin vocare, meaning to call. So a vocation is something you're called to. Vocation is different from work or a job or even a career. You could say that work is the labor required to do a task. A job is the situation in which you do it. A career is the long-term trajectory or pattern of many jobs, but vocation is deeper than each of these concepts. So that's an interesting quote, isn't it? Vocation comes from the Latin word meaning to call. So now let's look at that word calling. Calling is a powerful thing, right? When I look up calling, it's defined as a strong urge toward a particular way of life. Strong urge toward a particular way of life. Have you ever felt a calling? One book that I will be referring to this month of August is this book called Callings: Finding and Following an Authentic Life by Greg Lavoie. So let me read a little bit about what Greg Lavoie has to say about callings. And he starts off this little section with a brief little story, a couple sentences that is a story that comes from an artist named Howard Ikimoto. Here's Howard saying, when my daughter was 7 years old, she asked me one day what I did at work. I told her I worked at the college and that my job was to teach people how to draw. She stared back at me, incredulous, and said, "You mean they forget?" Isn't that a good story? So onward with this quote from the book. Yes, we forget. And this book is about remembering our vocations. Again, in the true sense of the word, our callings, whether they are vocations in the arenas of work, relationship, lifestyle, or service. They may be calls to do something or calls to be something. They may be calls toward something or away from something, calls to change something, review our commitment to it, or come back to it in an entirely new way. Calls toward whatever we've dared and double dared ourselves to do for as long as we can remember. So, callings. That'll be a lot of what we talk about this month. So, one of the things that we know about occupations, vocations, callings is that they do shift and change with the phase of life, right? We know that. We know that. And when think back to when you were children, when we're children and teens, we may feel ourselves just driven to draw, color, dance, run, jump, sing, depending on, what kind of situation we're in when we're little. And then as young adults, our focus just naturally shifts to occupation as career and forming connections and choosing relationships, right? And as our situations continue to shift, our focus must shift to accommodate those life situations, right? Depending on our consciousness, let's just remind ourselves, what is our consciousness? It's our thoughts, beliefs, feelings, and attitudes. So depending on that framework through which we view the world, this ongoing evolution, change of circumstance can feel joyous, or it can feel like we're succumbing to pressure. Oh, I had to do that because of this, and I had to do that because of that. So one of the things that as we navigate all of those changes in life, it's really important for us to develop, for our own well-being, develop an awareness of our through line, our why. So I say develop an awareness for our through line because this may not come naturally to you. It comes naturally to some, easier to others, not so easy to a lot of people. So it's so easy for us to get caught up in the daily drama and the daily demands, right? It's easy for us to lose track of our through line, our why. So I do want to address this particular term I'm using, through line. Now, because my background, my first career was in performing arts, so I tend to interpret things, with that framework that I lived with and trained in for so long. So through line is a term I'm using. Is defined as a connecting theme or plot or characteristic that's often, in a book or a play or a film or something. So that's why I use that. So when seeking your through line, ask yourself, what is the focus that holds my attention over time and through different circumstances? So you could find, as you reflect on that, that it is caring for others, or it's achieving things, or it's assessing things and figuring out what the best course is. Any of these things are the kind of things that can be your through line. That's that through line that's present through all your circumstances. When you look at another angle you can use is to look at the values that you operate from. What values am I always seeking to express, no matter what the phase of life is? So this could be authenticity, that I want to be authentically myself, or understanding, or peacefulness. These are values that, as you reflect and ask yourself, could be your why of why you're here, why you make the choices you do, is because of certain values. You can also ask yourself, how is it that I consistently show up? So what energy do you consistently bring to different circumstances throughout your life? So this could be enthusiasm. This could be an energy of leadership, an energy of insight. So this could be your compass. What guides you, no matter what situation you're in, this is what you are wanting to show up as. So we all know how a compass works, right? So wherever we go, whatever, situation our life is in, your compass, you hold up that compass, and the compass needle is always going to be pointing to true north, no matter what, right? No matter if it's like, oh, I have to go through this or whatever, your compass is there to remind you. So it's like your through line, your why. So my title today, my question is, what is your compass? So ask yourself, what is my compass? Now, I would say that it is likely, because we kind of have this dual nature as human beings. So we know that we are 100% human 100% of the time, and we are also 100% divine 100% of the time. So there's this wonderful polarity that we live in all the time. We have pivotal consciousness. So we know that as we get all kind of tied up in the drama of day to day, we can pivot our attention to our divine nature and remind ourselves of the enduring truth teachings that we follow, right? So I believe that when it comes to through line and your why, your compass, that there is your compass on your human nature level, and there's your spiritual compass on in your divine nature. So one of our wonderful teachers in Unity is, of course, Unity founder Myrtle Fillmore, who I often bring her on Sunday morning, don't I? And today I have my copy of Myrtle Fillmore, How to Let God Help You. She's got this chapter in How to Let God Help You called Life is a School. So she has to, she addresses this topic that I'm calling spiritual compass in this book. So let me read a little bit of this to you. All of us, sooner or later, come to a place in our development where we are no longer satisfied to go on living the old life without the knowledge of our oneness with God, the source of our being. Sometimes when we reach this point in our soul's progress, we do not at first know just what is taking place. We may become restless and dissatisfied. We may go through experiences which we do not understand. We may even be tempted to think that our good has gone from us. But just as surely as there is God, the one presence and one power, we shall find that all is well, and that we are but going from one room, as it were, into another, larger and lighter room. So that would be Myrtle talking about that moment where you find or remind yourself of your spiritual compass and you go from one room into another larger, lighter room, we've become enlightened. So sometimes we feel the call of the divine within ourselves, right? We are called to create and express the quality of divinity that we feel in all that we do, right? Here's a quote about that from Ernest Holmes. The spark which burns at the center of our own soul is caught from the living and eternal flame of God. So, what is your spiritual compass? I would say when we talk about unity teachings, I would say, look at unity's 12 powers, and what are the ones that you're really attracted with, that you really sizzle about, right? When you think about, the power, or the power of strength, or the power of faith, what is it that really calls to you? It's important for us to do that kind of reflection and ask ourselves and remind ourselves and periodically take some time apart to review, because as we were mentioning before, we know that as our phase of life changes, our callings, our through line shifts to accommodate that, right? We show up, we might have a through line of one thing, say it's caring for others, and for a while we're doing it this way, our life shifts, it's like, oh well, I'm going to do it in that way for a while, and then I'm going to come this way for a while. So just be in those, give yourself time, be in those moments and ask yourself, what is my spiritual compass? Now that answer may come quickly, or it may take some time. uh, Other ways that you can be with yourself in this reflection is to ask yourself, what makes my soul sing? Is it being on my own and doing some kind of creative activity? Is it being with others? Does it involve being in meditation? Does it involve, creating projects with other people? What is my spiritual through line? Again, look at those 12 powers and see what sings to you. What brings joy? What's my through line? What's my why, my compass? So this process of asking and creating time for reflection is important for our human lives as well, right? So if we just kind of look at our outer lives, we know that we have that spiritual background going. And that's why I suggest kind of doing some reflection around your spiritual compass first. So you kind of have that framework. And then let's take some time and reflection about our human lives, right? So one thing you can do is sort of looking back at your past. Now, this doesn't mean digging up things that you're upset about from the past, but look at your past, the path you have taken, the kind of choices you have made in an attempt to see, what is my through line? What is it that I'm always doing, even though it might show up in different ways? What's my through line? What's my why? What's the compass? So an example that I can provide, a personal example for me, is as I mentioned, my first career was in performing arts. And so I have a through line of being an artist. Now, I'm a particular kind of artist, so I'm not a painter, but the medium that I use is words. And it was really important for me to spend some time in reflection and come to that awareness, because I did not grow up in a family where there were artistic people around me. So artistic pursuits were not honored, not encouraged, and yet I kept feeling this calling and wanting to do things, and kind of being shut down by, a parent who said, well, that you have to study solid subjects. You can't be studying theater. Um, Luckily, I encountered a friend who is an artist, a lifelong artist, a musician, who helped me to see what I was, to see my through line. And so I know myself as an artist. That's basically what I am. And my medium is words. So how I do that shifts over time. Sometimes I'm writing, sometimes I am performing as an actor, sometimes I've been a singer-songwriter where I'm writing with songs, and right now I'm here as a minister where I basically kind of, pull together information, a collection of words, and bring them to you on Sunday with the intention of shining the light on different topics and empowering you to do the same. So that's one of the things that you can do, is looking back at the different choices you've made and see what your through line is. Another way you can do it is looking ahead. So casting yourself into the future, and dreaming, using your power of imagination to imagine what kind of circumstances you would like to create and how that will feel in the future, right? Now, we've talked about the past a little bit, about the future, but we know that the only point at which we actually have the power to make change is in the present, right? So in the present moment, pause, notice, ask, reflect, ask yourself in particular, what brings me joy? Joy is very often the indication of your through line, of your why, of the needle of your compass, is what brings you joy. Here's there was a famous quote or series of talks and teachings and writings from Joseph Campbell where he talked about follow your bliss. Have you ever heard that? Your bliss and joy, very closely related. And here's another quote from James Martin from the Jesuit Guide to Almost Everything on Vocations. How do we discover our vocations? Through desire. Vocation is less about finding one and more about having it revealed to you as you pray to understand what I want and desire. You may ask yourself, what desires have lived long in my heart? What do I most enjoy doing? What are my dreams? Now, for those of you who like to have an anchor in Scripture, there's a firm foundation for this in Scripture, finding your through line and expressing it with enthusiasm. So the words of Jesus from Matthew 5:15-16, people do not light a lamp and put it under the bushel basket. Rather, they put it on the lampstand, and it gives light to all the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, so that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father in heaven. So there is Jesus encouraging us to ask these questions, find our through line, and express it with passion, whatever it is. It might be needlework, it might be gardening, it might be going out and volunteering, whatever it is, to ask the questions, be in reflection, find whatever your pivot is right now. Here's a quote from our friend, Raymond Anderson. Whatever we have that we call our gifts, talents, skills, blessings, etc., we are called to bring into the world. We're called to be the living embodiment of our spiritual magnificence and to live it out loud, not to hide it under a bushel. So your call may be grand or it may be simple. Some of us are called to be Olympic athletes. Some of us are called to do baking at home. Some of us are called to be astronauts. I have a cousin who was an astronaut, and some of us are called to care for loved ones, whether it be people or animals or both. So don't sit in any kind of harsh judgment on yourself about what your calling is. It might be something really simple that you show up and are present with in a through line through your life. Here's a quote from Martin Luther King Jr. If a man is called to be a street sweeper, he should sweep streets even as Michelangelo painted or Beethoven composed music or Shakespeare wrote poetry. He should sweep streets so well that all the hosts of heaven and earth will pause and say, here lived a great street sweeper who did his job well. Also, my friends, don't fret if you find yourself feeling lost or adrift at times. Here's another quote from Myrtle Fillmore about that, those kinds of moments that we all experience. From the beginning, all of the qualities and capabilities you need in order to make for yourself a perfect destiny have been implanted in you. Through your study, understanding, and practice of truth principles, you are finding how to awaken, develop, and set free into righteous expression all of these inner spiritual resources. So if you find yourself feeling adrift, just rest easy with that. See it as a moment of opportunity. And know that you have all you need already in the programming there. You just have to wake it up. And also just don't feel fretful with yourself if you find yourself wandering. As I mentioned before with my example, it's like I found myself doing all kinds of things, but when I sit and look at it, there's the through line that is present through all of these different activities. So here's a quote from Thomas More in Care of the Soul. It is probably not quite correct to speak of the soul's path. It is more a meandering and a wandering. The soul path is marked by neurotic tendencies as well as high ideals, by ignorance as well as knowledge, and by daily incarnated life as well as by high levels of consciousness. The soul becomes greater and deeper through the living out of the mess and the gaps. So there you go, friends. Take time to pause and notice. Ask yourself questions. What is my through line? What is my why? What is my joy? What is my desire? What is my compass? Reflect on those questions in prayer. Sit in stillness and notice the answers as they are revealed from within your consciousness. So we're going to practice that right now as we move into our time of meditation. And as we prepare that space of meditation for ourselves, I'm going to be reading to you from a minister named Scott Aubrey, who has the website Spiritual Passages. And he calls this a prayer for one's calling. So take a deep breath, if you will, and settle into your seat. If you wish, you can allow your outer eyes to drift closed or just soften your gaze and focus on something pleasant. Infinite presence. I do what I love. I am inspired by a pattern of divine beingness within me, allowing this calling, my talents, and my pure heart to create something magnificent in the world of my effects. I walk in confidence and with clear purpose, knowing that pure spirit goes before me to make the crooked ways straight. I am sourced, upheld, and guided in the calling of this day. I show up fully and am a stalwart ambassador of good for all in my orbit. And now that we have prepared the moment, prepared the space, we will move into stillness for a few moments right here, right now, together. As we begin to bring our focus back to the present moment, we affirm that the path that we have taken in this life is an expression of a divine through line, a spiritual compass. And as we bring our focus back to the present moment, back to the breath in the body in the seat, we'll close with another quote from Scott Aubrey. Our highest calling is to open to the goodness, grace, and beauty of each other and of ourselves. And we'll close this time together with an affirmation. So when I say an affirmation, I like to put my hand right on my heart space so that I am feeling that affirmation anchored in the body, anchored in the resonance of the heart, and present in the present mind. So here it is. I'll say it once and then you can repeat it a couple of times at home with me. All right. I am open and receptive to Spirit's call. Say it with me, friends. I am open and receptive to Spirit's call. Let's say it one more time. Give it some real energy, friends. I am open and receptive to Spirit's call. So I am, and so you are, my friends. Thank you so much for being here this morning, and I'm going to hand it back over to our friend Linda.
Okay.
She's coming. She's working on it over there. Everyone's device works differently, right? There she
Thank
is.
you. Thank you, and thanks for watching the weekly broadcast from Unity of Fredericksburg. Visit our website, uofva.org, to learn more about our mission of spiritual awakening and transformation, and support our ministry with your financial donation. Thanks again for watching.